So since the launch of Path of Exile 2, I've been actively playing the Mercenary, and it has been quite the blast of a class to play, especially once you start to come online and you do a ton of damage. Unfortunately, while it is a walk in the park once you get actual gear, gems, and everything you need, leading into it can be quite the crawl, and based on comments I've seen on my Twitch channel, it seems a lot of players are maybe having a bit of a hard time leveling between Act 1 and 3, and I'm going to be showing you guys in this video the build that I made. This Mercenary build is very straightforward. It's going to have a total of 3 button presses if you choose to go that way to be able to clear every bit of Act 1, Act 2, and 3 if you decide to keep this build leading into the cruel difficulty. If you're having a hard time getting through Act 1 and 2 because of damage or whatever the case, I'm going to show you how I do it in this build. Fairly easy. Let's begin. Alright, so now we are on the build section of the video, and quickly before we dive right on into this, just keep in mind I am partnered with Mobalytics, and as you can see here, I will have a full-fledged written guide with this information down there. So for those of you who prefer a written guide, you can go check that out. It'll be like one of the first things linked down. We have a lot of great creators in Mobalytics. I think Jorgen's there, DS Lily, Alcohol, Kriparian, all going to be covering the game, so go check out some great guides from those guys. Alright, so first things first, let's talk about your main skills, and as I said a second ago, you're going to be using a combination of single target and AoE to deal with this build, or deal with like killing everything. And the first skill you're going to be using, and this is going to be jarring to a lot of Path of Exile 1 players, is crossbow shot. This is your primary crossbow skill. This is the first thing you have, and this is your base auto attack. One thing that's very strange about the early game Merc is a lot of his skills don't do much of any damage despite having a lot of skill supports on it, and the reliable form of single target damage that I can tell is crossbow shot. There's the high velocity one that does some okay damage, but I have found crossbow shot to be your best option early on, as it continues to just do a lot of damage. It's very, very strange to me, and I don't know why it's so strong, but I do think it's your best option to choose. We're going to be supporting this with martial tempo. This is going to be giving you more attack speed, and that's going to really help you out. And you're probably seeing on screen on the left side, depending on where I put this, it just does really solid overall damage. It's not the most damage in the world, but it's going to help you to complete the content. On top of this, since this is going to be a very fizz focused build, we are going to be putting brutality on this. Now, I know this is counterintuitive to Herald of Ash, because you know we're going to have a Herald of Ash, as this skill doesn't deal any fire or chaos damage or anything like that, but keep in mind that this is purely used to kill one individual enemy, and that's kind of the primary focus with it. It's not necessarily here to just give you a ton of like synergies or anything. Your combination that we're going to be using for the AoE is going to be explosive grenade. This is going to just shoot down a grenade that's going to do AoE fire damage. We're going to support this with scatter shot, and this is going to give it multiple shots that you're probably seeing on screen. It's going to make multiple explosions, and then it'll explode in the AoE. You can go with concentrated effect. This is going to be situational depending on how you feel as a player, because with the scatter shot, this is going to give you good coverage, and this is going to give you some decent damage. Otherwise, take this out if you want more AoE. You're missing your shots, you're not really good with it, because it does require you to kind of aim it a little bit ahead of you, or because it has like a fuse, right? And so sometimes enemies are chasing you, kind of need to retreat and like kind of measure it. That's kind of how it goes. We're going to be also using gas grenade, and this is going to be our main wombo combo. We're going to drop the gas grenade down, we're going to inflict the area with gas, and you're going to throw down the explosive grenade. Now, the reason why I'm not using other gems, for example, like I'll show you this one, incendiary shot, is because it does not ignite the poison. If you ignite an enemy, I think it may ignite the poison, but if you shoot at it with this, it won't ignite the poison, so this isn't really worth using, and that's why we don't use it. Anything else that would, in theory, ignite it is long beyond this point. Exposure shot, which is what I use, and this obviously isn't for that, so your only option is going to be explosive grenade, at least if you're using a crossbow. And we're going to be supporting this with magnified effects. This is going to give you more area of effect, so you can get more coverage, and then we're going to get corrosion on this, because this is actually good at breaking armor. Keep in mind, you are going to be doing your primary damage with crossbow shot, and this is going to be a pure physical build, and so having the ability to break armor is actually going to go a long way whenever you're trying to finish off that tough enemy. So if you're not like trying to kill mobs, you're just going to throw the gas grenade down and have him sit in it, do poison damage, and he's going to be breaking his armor just as effectively as I can tell, well, at least from what I can tell, as the armor piercing round. A lot of bosses stand still, so it was actually pretty nice. and so you'll be using this in combination, and that's kind of the purpose of the build. The other skill we're going to be using is Herald of Ash. This is just going to be a spirit reservation of 30. Keep in mind you won't be able to sustain this unless you get extra spirit for the vitality and the precision that we're going to put on this, but for like all intents and purposes, you're going to use Herald of Ash. This is going to give an explosion of the overkill of the damage that you do as an ignite. It's going to basically ignite enemy, and this is just going to help you with AoE. Overall, your AoE clear is going to be persistent around these 3 skills, and then your single target is going to be around crossbow shot. Now, this is the core of the build. As I said a second ago, you can build whatever you want in addition to it to help you out, but this is what's important to make sure that you can progress all the way through. Now, I will be throwing some other options right now, and I'll have this timestamp so you know to skip it if you don't want to see this part. So the first options we're going to have is permafrost bolts as well as flash grenade. These are the 2 ideal options. For permafrost bolt, you can go with cold infusion or pierce. Either of these work really well. Actually, I think all of these works really damn well. I would personally go with cold infusion, or I would go with pierce to help you with control. Having the ability to just control enemies is going to be really big, and this build doesn't have a ton of control. It has good AoE, it has good single target, but control is not the best option, and so this is going to be something you should consider. When it comes to your other ability, which is going to be flash grenade, I would just simply go with overpower. This is just going to help you with stun. Flash grenade will blind enemies and it will cause a stun buildup. Just keep in mind though, if you are using this and you shoot it at yourself or near you, it will blind you too. So be very careful with this. If you're playing like how a grenadier is, you're probably going to just press all 3 buttons at the same time and go. But otherwise, these are going to be the 2 things I recommend. Both of these are kind of control-like, and I feel like permafrost really helps a lot in the long run. So for the mercenary, I'm going to go show you what I used, and I'm going to give you a few options. This is not mandatory, but there are some things that are nuanced that you should know. So I actually went with a combination of evasion as well as damage, as you can see here. So we grabbed projectile damage, all this, remorseless as well as battle hardened was really important. The important things that you need to note is if you are not feeling pressure from like regeneration, you don't necessarily need to get this hard to kill life regeneration stuff here. You don't necessarily need to get it. I'm using it still even though I'm in the end game because the sustain is super important. But I would highly recommend just kind of see how you play in your gear rolls, because this could be really helpful in keeping you alive. Otherwise, over here, I grabbed this attack speed because, believe it or not, there's not a lot of attack speed on the tree, and it's hard to get it, and this is actually really helpful because crossbows are not the best when it comes to attack speed and reload stuff, so grab all this stuff here. Mass Hysteria is really important. You don't have to, but I think it's pretty good, especially when it comes to some of the stuff over here, which is gonna, like, kind of hinder you a little bit. I went down here and grabbed the Remorseless, like I said, and then I grabbed Ricochet. Actually, grab all this stuff. You want to get Ricochet, you want to get projectile damage, projectile damage, projectile damage. I put way more damage than I naturally would do in PoE 1, and that helps out a lot because I feel like you don't really need as much defense comparatively. Grabbed all attributes here, and then down here you're going to just grab all this heavy ammunition all the way down until you get careful aim. That is pretty much everything you will need. At least I feel like this is everything you would in theory need in terms of like Act 1, Act 2, early Act 3. By Act 3 you should be using a different skill because actually all his good skills come into play. But this is what I would use early on, and then have this as situational. It only costs 300 to respec, so you'll probably unspec some of this later. If you do need a little bit more direction, oops, look that. What I would do after that is just come over here to this catapult stuff and grab all this stuff. Not this. Grab this stuff. This is what I would grab after that and get some more damage. And then I'm pathing down here. This is irrelevant to this like starter build, but I'm just giving some people some direction just in case you want to know. That's how I would path it. Zooming in here, I want to go over the gear, and this is just going to be a baseline of gear just to give you a little bit of an outline of how to do things. Most if not all this will be easily found within like the first 2 or 3 zones of Act 2 or before it, so this should be very easy for you to have all of this stuff. First off is going to be a sturdy crossbow. You want to get as much physical or accuracy on it. You want a combination of fizz, like increased fizz or even added fizz. I'm going with a baseline of increased fizz and accuracy rating. I think these are very easy to get. It's a magic item, super easy. You can get some of the other bows if you want, crossbows if you want. I'll show you a quick example of this. I just randomly grabbed this while I was just recording footage for this video, and you can see here I just found this. I went to Moodwalk Quarry and then the Maldwin Mine. This area will drop a crossbow almost always. So if you need a crossbow, that's where you would go. Anyway, for a helmet, this is guarded helm. You can easily get this in Act 1. We're prioritizing maximum life, armor, and then some type of resistance. Cold, fire, ice doesn't cold, fire, lightning doesn't matter. For a chest, a vagabond armor once again can be easily found in Act 2 early on. Maximum life, evasion, armor, and get some form of resistance on this. Once again, probably fire, whatever the case is, get some type of resistance. Anything else works well. For the gloves, I have a very simple pair of gloves. These are stats you should look for. It's very unlikely you'll find something like this. Added fizz, some maximum life, attack speed, some form of resistance should work really well. You'll probably notice a theme with all my builds is it has life on it because I like life. For the belt, life, armor, blast gain, it's fine. For the greaves, move speed if you can find it, resistances, and life. All you really need. For the ring specifically, I went with topaz and sapphire. You can go the other one. I think it's amethyst. Whichever one is chaos. You can go with that too, but you just kind of want lightning resistance and life. Anything else is a bonus. Life and the resistances that comes with the ring itself is all that you really need to survive the two major bosses in those acts. For my necklace, I went with Azure amulet because it has mana regeneration. Once again, life, cold resistance, and then is that everything? Oh no, flask. I went with giant flask. You guys should be easily able to find these. Whatever flask you have, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter what affix is on it, as long as it's not like less recovery, should be fine. But yeah, those. And then for the charms, I'm not expecting you to have 3. I'm just giving you 3 options. Stone charm, this is gonna help you to be anti-stun. I think this is the least valuable of them. I've yet to be stunned. That I can tell that was detrimental. So thawing, the only time I've ever died from elements or anything has been from freezing. So thawing is super important. So make sure you have one of those. And the other option would be a grounding charm. Shocked. The other way that I feel like you'll ever die is if someone shock you and then hit you with a big hit. There's a boss at the end of Act 2, spoiler alert, that does a lot of shocking. And if you get hit by some of his combos, it can kill you while you're shocked, because shock amplifies damage if you're not familiar. This is my recommended. So yeah, that's what I would use. All right, quickly, I'm going to show you guys how to get uncut gems. This is a part in the game where it's actually relatively hard to find them, and I just kind of want to help you guys out. I'm in Act 2 in the area of Astari Outskirts. This is basically when you first come into Path of Exile. This is where I found, or come into Act 2. This is basically where I find all of my gems because I was swapping a lot. Reason I'm showing you this is just for proof of concept. I like to make sure that I show you guys what I'm saying and not just saying it. I'm going to fast forward it, and then when I get to a gem drop, I'll just drop it there, or a skill drop. I'll stop it there and you can see it. Proof of concept. Let's go. So as you guys can see here, I went up to the top here. Oh wait, how do I move the map? I went up to the top here and I went that way, and I just went to the right here, like right outside the camp, and it's got me an uncut skill gem just like that. If you went right like I should have went the first time, you would have got one within like a couple of minutes. So, and there you have it, guys. That is my early game leveling mercenary build. This is a build that I feel is going to be really well for you until you start to get some of the uncut gems that actually give you some really sizable power. In the near future, I'm going to be dropping my explosive bolt or whatever. I don't know what I'm going to call it. It's like an explosive based build that you probably saw some footage of in the future. If you guys want to see that, consider leaving me a like as well as subscribing for the channel so you know exactly when that video come out. Turn on the notifications. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions. I'm going to be live streaming every single day, so if you want to ask some questions, come join in on the giveaways. Anything like that, come jump in the channel. Huge thank you everybody for stopping by, and see you guys in the next one very soon, Exiles.